What up is Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads. Guess what? I have baby Haven here. Yep, she's sleeping away. Gosh, she is now 10 days old? 10 days old? Yeah, so not even 5 pounds yet. This is like less than a dumbbell weight here. So sorry for not getting out the waivers. I feel like today has been or not today. I feel like this week has been one long day. So the next week or two, just be gracious and know that I may come out with some videos, and depending on how everything goes, I may not. It may end up being like that. But I wanted to give you guys some second half players to buy in fantasy football. Now we've talked about rookies and some of these rookies that are the Jahmyr Gibbs the JSN, and even like a Josh Downs. Like some of these players are going to be on the buy. Now, there's going to be other players that are not rookies that I do want to talk about, and I would like to buy. And the first one right off the bat is Rhamondre Stevenson. Now, remember, he was a round 3-ish draft capital when it came into redraft here, and he just ended up falling down a little bit when Zeke signed, and the Patriots offense has been just horrendous. But he's gotten 6 targets last week. He got 6 targets the week prior, caught 11 of those 12 targets. And so when you have a player that has that receiving game, now he's going to get some of these touchdowns vultured by Zeke, which is going to be frustrating. But I think Rhamondre Stevenson has gone through the gauntlet, the tough part of the schedule. And sometimes you get through this, and we saw this a little bit with Najee last year. And we've seen this with other running backs where they run through the schedule where it just gets brutal. They start running through, and then all of a sudden they get a little bit more of a cakewalk, and you start seeing them go from RB25 to RB10 on the year. I think Rhamondre Stevenson is going to be consistent top 20 running back for the rest of the year. I think that is my belief here, and so I am buying Rhamondre Stevenson. The next player I do want to talk about is some of these running backs that just have not performed that should with high volume. The first one is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is a high-volume player. He will get into the end zone. That offense has just been confusing. Josh Jacobs was somebody that I thought was going to have a good week last week, ended up doing absolutely nothing. But Josh Jacobs, I am going to chase volume. I think if you're going to have a player that gets 20 touches, he's going to have that upside of being, remember, he was the RB1 overall last year, and I'm not saying, he's going to get back to that level. But let's say he gets back to RB10. RB8, somewhere around there. I think that he is going to have a big second half surge here. The next one, and this one might make you want to throw up, so get your puke bucket ready. It is Najee Harris. Najee Harris has actually had more yards per carry than Jaylen Warren. Everyone's goo goo gaga over Jaylen Warren. We forget that Najee was a first round pick. And Mike Tomlin is going to use Najee Harris, whether it is good, bad, or indifferent. Najee Harris hasn't looked good. Honestly, he has not looked good. His biggest knock coming out of college, top end speed. He doesn't have it. He just doesn't make big plays. But he is going to be another high volume. Pittsburgh is going to play the run a lot, play defense. They're going to win games. It's what Pittsburgh does, and it hasn't changed over the last 20 years. So we're just going to continue, and especially under Mike Tomlin, which, gosh, he's got to be there for like a decade or something like that. So I think that Mike Tomlin will continue to do what he's been doing. Jaylen Warren will get a little bit more passing work through there, but Najee Harris, remember, he had a horrible first half of the year last year and then ended up being that low-end RB1, high RB2. And I remember having him in a lot of different leagues where all of a sudden he was that RB2 that was making these big waves and giving me those consistent points that I definitely needed. And that's what you're going to have. Najee's probably not going to give you those amazing games, probably not going to give you those bust games in a few weeks here. I think once they get this offense rolling a little bit, Kenny Pickett's been hurt, Deontay's been hurt. I think Deontay gives a little bit more dynamic into that offense, gets the chains moving, get that offense moving a little bit more, which is what you need. I think they just need to get the ball moving. And when you have an offense that just looks stagnant, I mean, we're talking about some of these running backs on really bad teams. I mean, Pittsburgh, New England, and the Raiders are 3 of the worst offenses so far. Do you have anything that you would like to add? She's like, no, I don't want anything to add here. And so the tight end that I want to talk about, and so tight ends are just absolutely horrendous. They just are horrible. The one I do want to talk about is Dalton Kincaid, though. Dalton Kincaid is, again, a rookie tight end, and so if you say, you can't pick a Dalton Kincaid type of player, then I'm probably choosing Dallas Goedert. And Dallas Goedert is somebody that I've kind of poo-pooed on, but Dallas Goedert, I don't know why all the tight ends start with a D. Dalton Kincaid, and then I was like looking at other players like Dawson Knox and Dalton Schultz. I'm like, if you are a tight end, you must have the beginning part of your name start with a D. But I think that Dalton Kincaid, and I think Dalton Kincaid, now I'm getting all confused. Dallas Goedert. I think both of those players are going to see an uptick, and we have seen that already with Dallas Goedert. And I think Dalton Kincaid is that type of talent, that these two tight ends are tight ends that I think that are going to do better. They are going to separate themselves from that 7 to 17, and they're going to be into that 5 or 6 range. You're going to have the top tight ends. You can't get them. You can't get Kelsey. You can't get Andrews. You can't get Hawkinson, and you can't get Laporta. Those are just tight ends you can't get in most redraft and dynasty, but you can get the other tight ends for now. And so Dallas Goedert, Dalton Kincaid, those are two tight ends that I'm absolutely loving into this second half. Now, another wide receiver I do want to talk about is Marquise Brown. I don't know what the hatred of Marquise Brown is. I don't get it. I actually had him last year, and he did well when he played, and he was hyper-targeted, and now he's hyper-targeted again. And he's going to get Kyler Murray back. And I think that him being the wide receiver one there, I don't see a world that he's not a top 20 wide receiver. I just don't. I think that Kyler Murray makes that offense better. Even if it's minimal, I think he makes that offense better. So I think that Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray's a buy as well. And so we'll talk about quarterbacks here shortly, but Kyler Murray is somebody that you can stash on your IR. And people forget that Kyler Murray was a very, very good quarterback, and at least fantasy-wise. And we're not saying NFL-wise, but fantasy-wise, he was that quarterback behind the Allen, behind the Mahomes. Like, he was in that tier with Lamar Jackson. He was in that tier with, I think at the time, it was probably like Dak Prescott at the time. And we're going to talk about Dak Prescott very shortly. And so that I think sometimes we forget. It's one of the biggest things that I see fantasy players do, especially when they get hurt. We've seen this in the past with players like Cooper Kupp. All of a sudden they get hurt for an entire year, and then they come back, and you were like, well, they're not that high value, and all of a sudden they come back and perform really well, and all of a sudden we're like, well, why did we fade them? Oh, it's because they were hurt for a period of time. And I think Kyler Murray is a sufficient fantasy quarterback, and he's a buy. Marquise Brown is a buy into that offense. And the next one is going to be Dak Prescott. I still think that, yes, post-ankle injury, he has not been the same, and Mike McCarthy's offense has just been not good. Where's Kellen Moore? I want Kellen Moore back. I'm a big Dak fan. I think that he gets too much to blame for that offense. I think that offense sometimes does things, and you go, well, why did they do a play call there, or like what? Dak, I think Dak is actually they call Dak the Black Kirk, but Kirk Cousins is a decent enough fantasy quarterback the last couple of years, and I think Dak is a better mobility quarterback by far. I think Dak is much more mobile. Are you getting hungry? So I think Dak Prescott could be somebody that could be that second half guy. I think that he could be somebody that we look at and go, oh yeah, he went right back into that lower quarterback one. And right now he's not a quarterback one. So if he can move himself into that means he's going to be performing at probably a mid quarterback one performance level. And we start to see some of these fakers, these Jordan Loves. I'm not saying that because I'm a Vikings fan. I'm just saying that because we've kind of seen that these Jordan Loves, and we'll see if CJ Stroud can stay there. And Anthony Richardson, of course, hurt for the rest of the year. We'll see some of these players dwindle out of this range, and we'll see some of these players that, of course, we have consistency of. We've had few years, 5 years for like Dak and Kyler that have shown success, and we know that they're going to be successful. And we'll see if Trevor Lawrence, my darling, my favorite, one of my favorite players, we'll see if he ends up being a pretender or a faker, or pretender or a contender. And right now he just seems like he's just kind of on that borderline. We'll see. And we'll see if Tua can keep it up. We'll see if some of these quarterbacks that don't have this long duration of success, we'll see if they stay, and we'll see if Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray go back into their performances of being QB1. So again, this is Marcus Dice with that. We have Miss Haven here. I'm going to go feed her. So peace out. Take care. We'll see you again. Hopefully soon. Hopefully really soon. We'll see. It will be in the next couple of days. I just gotta figure out this whole newborn stuff again. Having a second kid, it makes it a little bit more interesting. Peace out. Take care.